Charleston, Norway, as well as Fin Digital. If any of your companies are interested in looking at sponsoring any of these events, just let me know, and we can get that worked out. So without further ado, I want to give a round of applause to Brent Payne.
Thanks, Tom. All right, so search engine optimization is going to be the topic for the night. If you guys have any questions throughout this, feel free to ask. Me yammering for an hour might get a little old, so if you have specific questions, feel free to ask. If I'm going to cover it later on in the presentation, I'll just let you guys know, hey, I'm going to actually cover that in like 4 or 5 minutes. And hopefully some useful information, some things that you guys can take home tonight and utilize on your own websites. So a little bit about myself. I've been doing search engine optimization since around 2001, somewhere in there. How did I get into it? Frankly, by accident. I was working with Amazon at the time. I was a vendor for them selling digital camera memory or flash cards at the time. And I've been bugging the buyer to buy some of my stuff, right? And it was okay, making a little bit of progress there. And then all of a sudden he places an order for around 120 days worth of inventory. So I was obviously excited because I was 100% commissioned salesperson. But I couldn't figure out why all of a sudden this occurred, right? So I asked him, I said, well, did you put some type of placement on the Amazon homepage, Amazon electronics page? What happened? He said, nah, I didn't do anything, just a huge spike in demand. So we ordered a bunch of product. So I started doing some snooping around, trying to figure out what happened, and I found out that I ranked #1 on Google, and I believe it was Alta Vista at the time, for 128 megabyte compact flash card. And at that moment I went, wow, I can either beg the buyer to buy our stuff, or I can drive the demand myself, right? So I started doing some research, reading news groups, forums, different websites, et cetera at the time, trying to figure out more about the search engine optimization stuff. And I ended up doing really well. But back then, it was a different world, right? It was about going into news groups, going into forums, dropping links, making doorway pages, all this stuff that they have now called black hat SEO, right? But around 2005, that stuff stopped working, right? Google made some serious changes to the algorithm back then, and what used to be working just wasn't working anymore. So at that time, I moved to what you call white hat SEO, right? And so from 2005 on, I've been doing communicating with Google, creating relationships with them, etc., to try and figure out what works well and how we can continue to help Google, Yahoo, MSN, and a little bit of Ask, although I don't have any contacts over there. So, so that's my background, all right? So I'm gonna get started, walk you guys through a little bit of the basics first, and then after that we'll get into some of the intermediate stuff, and then a little bit of the advanced stuff that might be a little bit controversial, like page rank sculpting, or link juice, funneling, whatever you guys want to call it, right? And we'll go from there. So, step 1, what is SEO? SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and more or less it's an online marketing, it's a vision of online marketing. What it is not about spamming the search engines, okay? Working for Tribune, I deal with a lot of journalists. I've done this a few times to the different newsrooms, right? And the first thing I get from them is, well, yeah, so what do we do? Just put up Britney Spears nude everywhere and we'll drive a bunch of traffic? No, and here's why. Because that isn't relevant information to whatever that story may be, right? So with your website, it's very important to make sure that you're relevant to the search query that's going on. And as long as you're doing that, Google, Yahoo, MSN, etc., will actually want to help you. Because what they care about is they care about the searcher. They care about the person that's choosing their search engine over the other search engines to make their query. And as long as they have good results, everyone's happy, okay? So the other thing is that search engine optimization isn't an exact science, right? It's about trial and error. They aren't gonna tell you everything that you need to know to rank well on search pages. Why? Because spammers still exist, right? If they release too much information, you end up having poor results in the search engines, right? And again, what do they care about? They care about the searcher. So at that point, they have to, figure out some other way to change their algorithm. So a lot of it's trial and error. Why the obsession with Google? Okay, everyone talks about Google, Google, and more Google. In fact, throughout the presentation, will probably mention Google more often than the other search engines. Okay, this is why. They're around 72%. That's based off of Tribune numbers from Omniture. Okay, we have around 50 different sites that I handle now from LA Times, Chicago Tribune, all the way down to small broadcast stations and local TV as part of that. So Fox 6 here, regional, right? So that's Tribune numbers. The actual industry numbers are around 68%, somewhere in there, but you can tell they have a massive stronghold on their market share. Yahoo's around 15%, MSN/Live/whatever brand they come up with next week, next month, right? It's floating around 8-9%. And then you have Ask at around 3%, right? All the other search engines, I don't care what blog you read, how excited you're getting about some tech blog, or your mom uses this, or your uncle who's in the tech industry uses this other one, cool, Mahalo, Alta Vista, whatever, right? They don't matter, okay? Until they start to climb up into these, higher percentages, it's not worth chasing after. So don't get hung up on, these other search engines that exist. All right, here's the stats. Tribune in 2007, we were floating around 22% of our traffic coming from search engine optimization. 2008, that jumped to 31% of our traffic coming from search engines. And year-over-year growth, we more or less doubled. It was actually 108% from 2007 to 2008. How do we do that? Mainly through technical changes, right? You need to take a look at your content management systems. You need to figure out what's going on there. I'll tell you guys specific examples, okay, later on in the presentation. But the other thing is you need a plan for future events. A lot of times, we'll plan for the inauguration, for example. What are we going to do? Have a search engine strategy for that. So you got to keep it at the forefront of your mind at all times. You also have, so what was I going to say? Oh yeah, training. You got to train your internal groups to make sure that every aspect of your company is thinking about search engine optimization, from the web designer to the content writers, the people that are running your servers. You got to get everybody trained. And so I've been running around for, 6 months now, trying to get everybody in the organization to think about SEO, okay? And I'm also developing an SEO task force. What does that mean? That means you find an evangelist in each department of your company to be the watchdog for search engine optimization. So in my case, one guy handling thousands, millions of web pages. I can't cover it all by myself. So what do? I find someone within LA Times, within the entertainment section, within the design group for entertainment, and I pick him to be the guy to watch, be my eyes and ears, right? Same thing with, I have a lady in marketing and Sun Sentinel, same type of thing. So you gotta find that within your group. Why should you care about SEO? Well, this is the number, right? 2,000 queries every second occurs on just Google in just the United States. That's a massive, massive opportunity. However, 87% of people do not go past the first page of Google. 87%. So it's more or less hit the first page or go home, because it doesn't matter. Factors. What do we know? I talked about 3 different things: popularity, authority, and relevance. Okay? The first thing, popularity, is all about the links. How many links do you have coming into a page, into a section, into a domain? Number of links. Doesn't matter where they're coming from, okay? Millions is better than hundreds. Hundreds is better than tens, okay? The next thing is authority. And this is more about where are you getting